generally. You've got container and shipping prices. What's happening with them? What's happening with oil prices? And then what's happening to the supply chain? We read of companies like Tesla in Europe having to suspend production because they can't get parts as quickly as they need to. So start with container shipping prices, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. So this is still largely a container shipping story. Well, we've seen a considerable increase in the costs that container shipping companies have to incur if they want to go through the Red Sea. This includes rising insurance costs, rising risk premiums, and that's a big reason why so many of them have opted for the last several weeks to send their ships around Africa. It's longer, it's slower, but it's safer. And this has led to increased costs to consumers. You mentioned the impact that this has had on companies like Tesla. This is also largely a Europe story, a North Atlantic story. Those are the markets that are being affected here. So the impact on container shipping has been significant. Thus far, we're still looking to see what kind of impact this could have on oil and gas. Obviously, this is the Middle East. Oil and gas is a huge factor as far as regional traffic is concerned. And the CEO of Chevron summed it up pretty well, I think. We're seeing an increase in risk, but so far, a lot of oil and gas is still moving through the region.
So if I don't mean to catch you on the wrong foot here, but if you can put numbers on the difference in cost of sending a container from the Middle East into Europe using one route as opposed to the other, if it cost X 4 months ago, what multiple of X is it costing today?
Well, as far as the insurance, what I've seen recently suggests that companies have to pay as much as 1% insurance costs on what they're putting through in order to take on the additional risk. And 1% on a $100 million cargo is $1 million. So is a company willing to pay $1 million to cut a few weeks off of its transit route to incur that cost? You'd have to talk to the companies. As far as what they were paying a couple months ago, it was surely considerably less. I would say at least an increase of factor of 3 or 4 as far as where the situation was a few months ago. So this is an increasing cost to container ships.
Yep.
And also container shipping companies, as opposed to oil and gas, are generally risk averse. They don't want to see their ships getting targeted. They don't want to see their ships getting hit. So they decided quite early on to divert around Africa, as opposed to the oil and gas shippers who are generally more risk tolerant. They see the risks, they know what they're going up against, and they're still sending their ships through the Red Sea.
How do you analyze or handicap the possibility that the strikes on the Houthis, their military installations, ammunition depots, radar, et cetera, launch sites, is going to dramatically affect, cripple their ability to mount these strikes, which often are mounted via drones or via speedboats that are very hard to target?
Absolutely. I mean, you summed it up so well. When these strikes came last week, I don't think anyone was surprised. The U.S. telegraphed the strikes hours, if not days in advance. Everybody knew that they were coming, including the Houthis. They had a chance to prepare. These strikes have continued, right? We've seen at least 3 rounds of U.S. strikes over the last several days. They're trying to hit the Houthis. The strikes that happened today were preemptive. The U.S. caught several Houthi launch sites off guards and were able to hit them before they were able to fire off missiles. But the Houthis are well dug in. They have elaborate and sophisticated infrastructure in place to launch these kinds of attacks. When it comes to missiles, the U.S. can do a certain amount as far as hitting the launch sites, hitting the storage sites, but most of the Houthi attacks have used drones, which are very easy to store, very easy to launch in large numbers. Sure, they're easier to intercept. So the Houthis might have a harder time hitting passing ships, but I don't think these strikes will significantly reduce their capacity to launch these attacks. If anything, they may provoke even more attacks by the Houthis on passing shipping.